So I welcome all of you to my YouTube channel. In fact, it's been the last 3-4 months, they were very busy regarding the examination and completion of the batch which I was running. And there were many questions I was getting from my students who had taught that, sir, you should always tell the students that how many questions they actually came from the course that we had taken in the class here. So this is a document which I basically prepared. I'm showing you this document where all the questions that would have been attempted by all of you had you taken the classes, because I started my course last year on 11th October with the idea that the only material which I'll give it to you will be my class notes. There was no material apart from the class notes that I was writing, and this is how we had taken the classes. You will get a good understanding. Coming to the very first question that you could have taken and attempted from the classes was, this is the question regarding critical minerals. I'll just show you this question first because I have attached my class screenshot. In fact, this was the very first class which I had taken in my very first demo class. I clearly remember the date, 11th of October 2024, and this video is also on the YouTube, so you can always watch it. There were these three statements that were there in the question. First statement was India has joined the Mineral Security Partnership as a member. Then second is about the fact that India is a research-rich country in all the 30 critical minerals, and the third is the amendment that was made by the Parliament to the Mines Act in 2023. So this entire thing I had taken in my first class. Critical minerals actually had 3 questions coming up in prelims this year. They could have all been attempted from the very first class. It's there on YouTube. You can always find it there. And here we have the screenshot from my class, and it clearly says the various steps which have been taken by the government of India. And if you can actually see it, I'll just put this document in the description also. It's clearly given that India had amended the Mines Act 1957, and where the center exclusively had got the right to auction critical minerals. That was one statement. The Parliament, this statement could have been attempted. Then we had India is a resource-rich country in all the 30 critical minerals. At the very start of this topic, when I had taken this class, I had given a list of the countries, important countries, and how they were the largest producers of several critical minerals, and that could have been easily attempted. In fact, a common man could have easily felt that for rare earth elements, for rare earth metals, the production that India has, that is not good. We are clearly dependent on the imports. That is what you will find in the class. And then finally, India joined the Mineral Security Partnership. This we had clearly seen in the international steps, in the diplomatic steps that were taken by the government of India to address the importance of critical minerals. So this question could have been straight away attempted by you from the classes. This is, I think this was a very good question, not very tough. We had taken world mapping and India mapping in the class, and I would not rate this question as a very tough question, because usually for all the important mountains that we have in the world, you would always prepare the nations that they pass through. हम सभी Himalayas, हम सभी Andes, Alps, हम ये सब याद करते ही हैं. तो इसमें question ये था, which of the following countries, basically the Andes mountain, the fold mountains as a result of ocean continent interaction, they basically were formed, how we've studied in geography. So here in this map class, I am discussing the map of South America. I don't know, you can watch you can see the PDF. It's not very much clear, but still you can see that I'm marking the locations like Sierra Mar and all of these things, and then you can see I am showing the Andes. This map already has the Andes mountains, and I'm marking Cordillera Occidental. One of the parts of the northern flange of Andes mountains is being shown here. So you would have clearly seen the countries that Andes pass through, and I had dictated verbally in class that these are the nations where the Andes mountains pass through. So this was a question which a good student, along with a good revision of world mapping, would have been able to attend. But I had not read this question at the same time as a very tough question, but still you could have taken this question from the very class notes. That is the mapping classes which I was taking as a part of my course 2025 current affairs. This question also, in fact, was a question that could have been taken easily as you can say that these two snippets are from the map of Africa, where we had first taken all the important physical locations, rivers, waterfalls, and the lakes. So you can clearly see Lake Tanganyika. I have clearly shown you the location. It's marked here, and then Okavango swamp is marked here, and clearly we are mentioning that this is Lake Tanganyika, and I'm clearly showing the north, south, east, west expanse of Lake Tanganyika. So this Lake Tanganyika could have been easily marked by you as a question in the exam. You can see that Great African Rift Valley, I'm saying DRC is on the west, Tanzania is on the east, Burundi is in the north, Zambia is in the south. That is how this could have been attempted. Lake Tonle Sap I had taken in my very first class, the demo class, where I had shown the map of Southeast Asia. So this is again a very simple location. Tonle Sap is a very important lake in Southeast Asia, and Patos Lagoon is a very tough lagoon to understand. But I would not say I had taken Patos Lagoon. Now again, that's a very interesting thing. My students are saying that I had taught it, but unfortunately I don't remember teaching Patos Lagoon. So there's still the mystery whether I had taught or not. But my other students who unfortunately couldn't qualify prelims, they basically were telling me that I had verbally dictated Patos Lagoon in class, and you can see that I am marking all of these rivers like we are marking the tributaries of Amazon, like Tocantins, like Xingu, like Tapajos, and also these important lakes like the Parana, Paraguay system. So the students told me that, you know, Patos Lagoon and all other important lakes we had covered. So even if we had not covered Patos Lagoon, by mere elimination and familiarity with the terms of all the rivers that you get familiar when you see the map in detail, that helped them eliminate the location and thereby come to this location of Patos Lagoon. So this was again a very tough question, I'd say, one of the toughest questions in prelims. I will not say 100% you could have taken it from my class. I'll not claim that. There will not be a false claim, obviously. I'll say ki ye sab maine nahi padhaya. I'll not say that, but yes, I'm telling you what the students said, where they said that by elimination they could have thought about the probable location. It was surely not the one that you could have straight away attempted, but yes, Tanganyika and Tonle Sap could have been straightly taken away from the class that we had taken. Then this, I think, was a very easy question, and this was all across the newspapers. This is basically the PIB report that we have, where in September, I remember the date, where National Turmeric Board was formed. So this question about turmeric, largest producer, exporter, you can find here clearly me discussing in the class and writing on the screen that where India is the largest consumer, exporter, producer of, you know, your turmeric. You can see the states also, and I've clearly mentioned Lakadong turmeric, which is a specific variety of turmeric that we get in Meghalaya. So just if a question comes, you would have been able to understand that also. And then this is a question, I don't know if you can see it well. This question I have actually asked in the test, where India is largest producer, consumer of turmeric in the world. Recently, National Turmeric Board, headquartered in Nizamabad, has been inaugurated. And the last is Meghalaya is famous for Lakadong turmeric. So this also was asked by me in my tests. Every month we used to take a test for the questions. So you could have easily attempted this question. Then again, we have this question. I found this question comparatively on the matrix of toughness. I found this question comparatively easier, where this question was about the Rashtriya Gokul mission, where it is important for upliftment of rural poor and indigenous cattle. You can clearly say we had in fact taken a lot of stuff for current affairs. We had taken the important role of animal husbandry in the agricultural and allied activities that we had taken in class. We had discussed important schemes that are important for economics. So here you can clearly say that this was discussion on white revolution, and I'm writing Maitri initiative, where multi-purpose artificial insemination technicians in rural areas under RGM, Rashtriya Gokul mission, that was launched in 2014, and also under the ministry. And all of these steps, Rashtriya Gokul mission, we had taken up in great detail when we had taken the discussion for current affairs for white revolution as a topic. So, but then one more thing, this question was also easily attemptable because indigenous cattle was the main focus of this Rashtriya Gokul mission. That is how this scheme was focusing on improving the breeding and the productivity of the indigenous cattle. So that is how this question could have been easily attempted by you. After this, then this was in the news because of the role that solar flares had in producing the effect in Ladakh, which we actually call, which we know as borealis in the north part, and we call it as aurora australis in the southern hemisphere. So solar flares and associated coronal mass injections bombarded Earth's outer atmosphere with tremendous amount of energy. Now you can clearly see that I've drawn sun and I've drawn Earth, and I'm showing how the coronal mass ejection as a phenomena takes place. This is from the class notes, and I've also given the reason. And finally, I have also discussed the structure of sun so that we can easily understand coronal mass injection. This was basically when we had taken mission Aditya L1, where we have launched this mission to study sun. So this was the point where we had studied the sun and its all layers and how again solar flares, then mission Aditya, and then in great detail, as you can see, that we are discussing the importance of Aditya L1 mission. I don't know if you can see this properly. You can just have a look at the PDF in the description. I'm clearly saying that space weather is getting affected because of solar winds and constant flow of particles. Basically, we were discussing the impact of launching. What is the importance of Aditya L1 mission? So there we are discussing its impact on solar weather, and we are writing solar winds and coronal mass injection and all of these effects that will be on the space weather. That is how we had taken in 2-3 areas the working of sun and coronal mass ejection. After this, this question I would rate as a tough question, but I would like to give credit to one of my students who has prepared the document. His name is Piyush Sharma. He told me that when we were discussing IR, we were discussing all the international bodies which are in news. This question says, which of the following launched the Nature Solutions Finance Hub for Asia and Pacific? So to be very frank, I did not know the answer to this question, but he said that when I was discussing all the international bodies, the closest fist to the question was Asian Development Bank. And the reason he said is because I clearly said the focus of different multilateral institutions, different multilateral banks. So he said, because you wrote here in the class that members belong to Asia Pacific region, the headquarters and the year and so on and so forth, by this simple fact, so I'd say the thought, I'd not say that I had taught this particular, Nature Solutions Finance Hub for Asia and the Pacific. Surely I had not taught this, but the thought of me discussing, this entire idea of how Asia Pacific is the focus of Asian Development Bank, this question could have been eliminated easily because we had discussed AIB, we had discussed NDB, and we had discussed World Bank. So the best fit in was this, where I think the thought would have played an important role. You have to take that risk in prelims and you have to imbibe that thought also, rather than merely reading the material dumped on the students. The thought is also something very important for all of you, which I think helped Piyush get this question right. So anyways, we go further ahead. Now this was also a very good question with reference to direct air capture and emerging technology. Which of the following statements is correct? Now I had discussed in great detail this step because the world's largest direct air capture plant was commissioned in Iceland, and I have clearly shown the mechanism and the principle of the working of this direct air capture mechanism, where how the large air is sucked into a large fan, it is sent to a filter, and then how we actually end up storing that CO2 and releasing the clean air in the atmosphere. We store this CO2 and we put it in cylinders. So इस diagram से काफ़ी चीज़ें I think आपको भी समझ में आ रही होंगी. This imbibed the concept in the students, and that is how this question was attempted. In fact, that is all prepared by Piyush only. He's prepared all the questions. He said that is how he answered all the questions. So that's his thought, and I'm just adding where I had taught that particular portion in the class. Now with this, this again I think was a good question, where this was this question about emissions of greenhouse gases from different sources, and it says that electricity and heat producers are the largest sources of CO2 emissions in India. This is my lecture on climate change, where I was teaching the climate change targets that India has, and I was teaching emissions from different sources. So you can see clearly, again you need to watch the PDF also, because I don't know if it's clearly visible to all of you. I'm clearly writing sector specific emissions contribution. This I've taken from the NDC that the Government of India submitted to UNFCCC 2.5 years back in December 23. And I'm clearly writing energy 75%, the main gas is CO2, then agriculture, main emitted gases methane and nitrous oxide, and thereby 13.5% are the percentage of emissions. So I presume this question could have been easily answered, and this was a thorough discussion that we had taken when we had taken a discussion on climate change. And then this was the question. Okay, now this was, I think, a tough bet for any teacher to teach. This was a tough question in my opinion. This was my last class for the prelims current affairs that I had taken, I presume, I think on May 2nd or 3rd, if I'm not wrong with the exact date. So this was the last question that, last topic we'd taken. I had taught all the important batteries, evolution of batteries, and how solid state batteries, solid ion batteries, how all of them, they are playing a very important role, and how different batteries have got cathodes and anodes. So this was a very tough question. I don't know if the students would have remembered that also. That was a tough lecture on my part also. So in that case, how many of them usually make up battery cathodes, cobalt, graphite, lithium, nickel? So this is one example, because those batteries lecture had almost, let's say, 25, 30 odd slides. So just to show you one, that how anode is made of liquid metal and other materials, and for this type of battery which I'm discussing here, the cathode is made of various lithium metal oxides. So just like this one battery, we had dealt with all of this in great detail, where I'm clearly writing that in which different types of batteries and cathodes are used, along with anodes. This was discussed in the class itself when we had taken a discussion on batteries. So this, I think, was a tough bet, but we could have got it right in the examination. Now regarding this question, consider the following substances, and you can clearly say this question is on coal gasification. So in my environment series of current affairs which I had taken, again I am not sure if you can actually see this. It's just to show you that you can just take a hint and then have a look at the PDF for your satisfaction. So this is clearly coal gasification pilot project of Ministry of Coal I was discussing, and this is the entire process where coal, we add water, hydrocarbons, oxygens, it is partially oxidized, it leads to syngas, and these are all the uses that we have of the coal gasification project. So this is how this question, though it was not a very easy question, but we had discussed coal gasification in great detail along with the applications. Two of them we are writing here, so you can clearly have a look here. So that is how you could have attempted this question. Okay, this 40th question I would say was the closest bet, though I'd not say that this question would have not been taught by other teachers also, but this is what was the question which I had framed in test 4, where I had given all the important quantum computers and the chips in news, and I had asked you to match those quantum computers or chips, and this is how, you know, the question came up in prelims. It will be expected that Majorana 1 will enable quantum computing. Majorana 1 has been made by Amazon Web Services, and you can absolutely find here that quantum computing I had taken. First I had taken for mains, then I had taken a discussion on the topological qubits. So these are made on a very beautiful type of qubits, because qubits can be made from several materials. So this was a topological qubit that was used here, and this is the mechanism, and clearly you can find Microsoft Majorana quantum computing chip, which uses something called as Majorana particles as the qubits. And along with this, You could have easily attempted your discussion on deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So this is the diagram which I had drawn. We were discussing artificial intelligence for prelims, and you can see we've got Gen AI in the center that all of us use. Then you've got deep learning, then you've got machine learning, then you've got the larger superset of AI. So that is how this thing could have been easily attempted from the class notes. Then this was a question where I had taught specifically when I was taking the health discussion under the science and tech module, under the environment module, which I was taking for the 25 batch. But this question is no virus, no virus, no virus. So if a person would have not studied this topic, he or she would have got this question right, but that's okay. The idea is we had taken a class on the microbes as a part of the larger topic of health. And again, if you can see the table, I had shown you how the virus is on the borderline of living as well as non-living. And you can clearly find out, if you can see that I'm writing, it is the only form of life that affects all other form of life, that includes all other forms of life, including bacteria. So that is how this question could have been easily attempted. We had taken almost one lecture for the sector of health in our prelims affairs, current affairs. Then this also was a question which we had taken. We had discussed all the boards important for the examination. In fact, you can find out here that I am writing National Dairy Development Board formed under the law, under the Ministry of Food Processing Board. MSME Ministry has the COIR board. So this could have been easily eliminated. So they basically exchanged it, and Ministry of Automotive Board and all of them could have been easily attempted by you, because we had discussed all the boards in the class. For one of the boards, we are showing you the photograph where I am discussing the COIR board and the Core Industry Act. Okay, then this question that we have discussed on the International North-South Transport Corridor, this I had taken twice. First I had taken when I was discussing Central Asia, then we had discussed on the map class. So this is a snippet I have taken regarding the two major agreements that we have, Ashgabat Agreement and International North-South Transport Corridor. So you can see that we are writing in 2000, we had 3 signatories, India, Iran, Russia. Then it's a multimodal project, and I've given you, a mnemonic to understand. I'm writing CAT2 because from Katrina CAF it becomes easy to remember CAT2O bus. So I said Katrina CAF had taken a bus. So you will say CAT2O bus. That is how we had remembered the countries. And you can see the nations, Kazakhstan, then Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, Turkey, Belarus, and all these nations are clearly there, Ukraine, Syria, and then Oman. So this question could have been easily attempted from the class. And the map I had shown in the map class, but this is your Central Asia discussion that we had in Civil Services main. Then this question also on 15th Finance Commission. This again was a question that you could have easily explained in economics. I was discussing the problem of fiscal federalism, and I was explaining how gross taxes and with the increase in cesses and surcharges, where the central government is not sharing the cesses and surcharges with the states, and how this problem has emerged with respect to fiscal federalism. There I could clearly said that the divisible pool of taxes, they are shared on the recommendation of Finance Commission, and this percentage right now is 41%. That is how this question could have been easily attempted. Had you just seen this diagram, you would have easily eliminated this point of the percentage of sharing, that is 45% is given in your question. Then we have this particular scheme, PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. It targets installation of 1 crore solar rooftop panels. All of these schemes we had taken when I had taken the current affairs. We had discussed all the important schemes in news. So you can find out that there is Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, 1 crore rooftop, 3 units amount. And also we had shown you that how will be the mechanism, subsidy, everything would have been easily taken care of in this question by when we had taken the discussion on rooftop. So that's the point. And then so this was a question, so this first demo class I had given on 11th October, that I think was a bumper bonanza, not for my students, but for every YouTube person watching, because everybody would have got 3 questions right. So this is clearly a cakewalk. Identify the following pairs and the resources. Nickel, you are writing Indonesia. Australia, Bolivia, Chile. I had taken the triangle. So maybe this question was taken from the video itself by UPSC, where Botswana is diamond. I had discussed in the map of Africa. I had previously shown you the map of Africa. There we had seen how, you know, Botswana and all these southern African nations, they are rich in different minerals. Chile, you can clearly see lithium, nickel. So this was the second question that you could have taken from my very first class last year, and it's there on YouTube. There are no false claims, absolutely. And then, so this was also, I'd say, this question, I'd like to give it to myself. I would like to give it to myself because I clearly remember I was teaching the Mediterranean Sea, and this is Mallorca, and I clearly remember asking my students that what is so important about Mallorca, which is also important for all of you. You would like to tell me what is the most important thing about Mallorca. So I know that this legendary retired tennis player, Rafael Nadal, he comes from Mallorca, and I asked all the people. And again, this question came up, they matched with Italy, that was wrong. Sardinia and Normandy. Normandy was discussed during the map class on Western Europe. And then finally we had this great discussion that we had taken for all the important islands that we have in the Mediterranean Sea. So that is how we have all the places easily marked. This was the question that you could have taken from the map class. Again, the map class, which was part of your course, the course that had started last year. And then this is again a question where I was very enthusiastically discussing the periodic table. And this was again on YouTube. This was again my first class, critical minerals. And this was the third question that came up straight from that one class, where I'm discussing during the class on critical minerals, the rare earth elements. I'm including the lanthanide series. I'm showing the lanthanide series and the actinide series just to give you a feel of this topic, though obviously it's not chemistry that we were teaching. And I can clearly tell you that they are magnetic. They basically are phosphorescent, and this question could have been easily attempted because the statement is clearly shown you in this slide. So this is all on YouTube. It's no false claim. You can surely have a look, and you can check the date also, by the way. It's not that I put it after the question came up in the examination. And then this is how it works. This is how we have seen varied uses. You can see we have discussed the uses also. Wind power plants, telecom, defense, and all of these things are again discussed in great detail regarding the question on critical minerals, and thereby you could have easily attempted this question. Okay, pardoning parts, this came up in Journal Studies paper 2, so I'll show you that claim also. So basically, Indian Express Explained had published an article when Mr. Trump's pardoning power was in news when he had come to power. So we are clearly classifying pardoning power of US President and Indian President. We can clearly see advice of the ministers in India, and in US it's a discretionary power. Thereby this question could have been clearly attempted by you. It's a static quality area, but this was also taken up in the discussion when we were having current affairs for prelims in the class. And then finally, this question also was a tough bet. This was a tough bet, and this was a repeated question, by the way. But we had studied major minerals and minor minerals because central government, under the powers it has under the Mines Act, had taken certain minor minerals out of the list and it got the powers with respect to major minerals. So that is what we have. We had barite, mica, feldspar and quartz changed, and I'm explaining the process, and here you can clearly find out the table that I've drawn in the class, where again, I don't know if it's visible, major and minor minerals. We are clearly classifying those major and minor minerals into 2 legs and taking a discussion very much easily. You could have easily attempted this question in the exam. This was a tough question, mapping questions, and this was a tough question in my opinion, along with the question that we had on quantum computing. That was a tough bet because we had to understand topological qubits, but again the question was a general question about quantum. So this is how you would have got this question right. This again, BIMSTEC we had taken in the IR class in great detail, and I am writing Bay of Bengal initiative in the IR class. Then I had told about the year of formation 1997, and this is the diagram. I have drawn the diagram of India, and I'm clearly writing the 5 countries that were initially formed, the BIMSTEC. and then how later on I am writing it separately that Bhutan and Nepal, they were added separately at a later stage, and that is what the question was about. That is what the question had to be discussed. So this is how we are discussing this question. So basically in this area, I'm first showing the littoral countries, and then I was showing that even if Bhutan and Nepal, they are not part of Bay of Bengal, they are also part because they don't have any such boundary with the Bay of Bengal, but still they are part of BIMSTEC, just to keep you reminding of the fact we were discussing this. And then finally we had gone to this question that we have on AI summit that took place in Paris. This was the Paris AI summit where the PM was one of the important hosts. So this is what we have discussed. We have clearly discussed the approach of regulation, AI regulation, and I'm explaining very well that how the approach of US and EU is totally different, and how India and US cannot come on a common platform to regulate AI. So this was a part which I had discussed, and then this was the previous summit, so you could have easily attempted both the parts of the question. That is how all of it was taken in the class where I had started my batch last year on the 11th October. We ended in the last week of August, and these almost I'd say 25. Oh, there's one more. Yeah. So with respect to BRICS, this is again, BRICS was taken in the IR class. This was taken in not September, this was taken in November, I remember. And this is again BRICS because in 2024 we had Indonesia not becoming a member. Indonesia became a member in 2025. We had discussed in the pre-class. So we had discussed BRICS twice. First we had taken in the mains, then we had taken in pre, and then this question again was a very simple question, could have been easily attempted from the class. And this is also a question I had asked in the test. Where BRICS has more member nations than ASEAN and BRICS has less member nations than SCO. So even a person who would have not taken that class, had he attempted this current affairs test which I had given, you would have easily got this question. Again, it's a very strategically framed question. We are comparing 3 organizations at one place, not only one. So you could have easily got this question right in the examination. And yeah, so this was, I would say, the mapping played very well for the students. In fact, I was surprised that we could have hit so many questions, in fact 5 to be precise from the mapping area. So this question is regarding this place called as Anadyr. Though I would also say that location of Anadyr was not the need of the question, but still to just come to the point where I am showing Anadyr, and this is Chukotsk Peninsula. I was marking Anadyr as a place. It's a very small port place in the northeast of Russia. There is Gulf of Anadyr, which I had shown, and then here you can see I am highlighting, and here I clearly explained the concept of international dateline. Now this was a good question that you could have attempted. I am clearly showing international dateline. This is Bering Strait, this is Russia, this is Anadyr, this is Alaska, and I am explaining how Commander Islands, they lie on the west, and how these Aleutian Islands, they lie on the east. So I was explaining the concept of international dateline, and how the moment you cross the dateline, you add 24 hours, and how these datelines have been actually, how this international dateline was actually demarcated, because it was, the location had to change to keep the sovereignty of the islands intact. That is what we had taken in the map class. So all in all, if I count the number of questions that you could have attempted, I would like to just show you the number of questions. Right, so now actually coming down to the numbers, that how many questions you could have attempted from my class notes, which is there for you. 26 questions you could have got straight from the class notes. You just need to read them. Whatever I was writing on the board, you've all seen it. You just need to write it down and by heart it. There is no other source apart from my class notes. That was the motto, that was the idea. We try to convert the current affairs into static affairs. Like we always say, the objective and the intent of me and my teaching for current affairs is to make it static. 26 questions could have been attempted. Now, I would have not claimed more questions, but based on the fact that how I had shown you Asian Development Bank question, that was one question that you could have taken with the thought, but many more questions could have been attempted had you adopted the thought which I was discussing in the classes based on my preparation and my high score in prelims. But obviously we cannot claim it to be the number of questions from me, but yes, the students, they benefited. And again, I told you this has been made by the student, so that's students' perspective for my classes. So all the questions, so you could have taken easily 35, 40 questions from the classes. If we involve the thought also, 3 questions came straight from the very first demo class of the course of the batch held on 11th October, which I've already discussed. The class was put on YouTube so that all of you can also see the content. And then 5 questions came from the mapping class. So 5 questions straight came from the mapping class, and thereby you could have easily attempted those questions by just looking at the notes. And again, I'd like to thank one of my students. His name is Piyush Sharma. He's written mains this year, and I hope he gets the interview call. So this was the detail of my hit rate. I call it hit rate in civil services prelim. In the next video, I'll show you the hit rate that we achieved in civil services main. To also inform all of you, I am starting my course which is called as Code to Current Affairs 2026, where not only the current affairs, we have also taken, like you've seen mapping, you've seen questions of environment, science and tech, polity, economy. I have also taken important core areas. Core, I mean the static areas in that course. It will cover your mapping module for prelims, entire end-to-end coverage we'd have for science and tech and environment in that course, along with entire paper 3 for your main and certain specific areas for paper 1 and 2. In the description, you can find out the course brochure. And with this, I'd like to thank all of you. I wish you all the luck ahead. And in any ways, if I can assist you in your preparation, you can always send us a message on the application, or you can send us a message on the office number. We'll be surely getting back to you with assistance. Okay, thank you.